Welcome, everyone, to our new session of Torah is for Everyone. I'm going to do a little synopsis about Bereshit, and then we'll go right into Noah. I made a few notes just to introduce this new class because I think it's so important. And so as we're beginning our journey again through the Torah, we're starting from Genesis, which was actually last week. But I hope that whoever is new and listening to our discussion is willing to take a giant leap of faith. And that's that the God of Israel is the only God and the only creator of the world and the universes. So whether these stories in the Torah actually happened is really less important, although there are many archaeological proofs, but all of them are lessons in morals and principles by which we can live. And it's absolutely vital that we learn from them so that our lives can be blessed and not cursed.
Peggy,
Yes, Brian.
I look at a little thing with Archie. He said, "Don't mess with Israel, because God's our protector."
Exactly. I watch all these videos, and there's so many opinions about how things began. Some say billions of years, some say all kinds of opinions. But God saw fit to tell it to Moses. But he wasn't there from the beginning. So obviously, it took a lot of trust for him to write it all down so that the millions of people who not only stood at Mount Sinai, they also followed him for 40 years in the desert. And we are their spiritual descendants. So let's take our time as we read through it and let's discuss it together. Let's see how these principles can be applied to our lives. So don't be afraid to interrupt. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If you're not online with us here, you can send comments. We really appreciate your comments. If we don't learn to apply these to our lives, really, what's the point? What's the point of reading them? So last week we began from Bereshit, where we learned about the beginning of all things and why God revealed them to Moses. He wasn't there. How could he have written them down? And we learned that when he created the heavens and the earth was tohu vavohu, with darkness over the face of the deep, and ruach Elohim, God's spirit, swept over the water. So God is letting us know that when he began his creation, he didn't start from nothing. There was chaos, tohu vavohu, which the Creator transformed into the state of order. And many of us personally had that experience of that chaos in our lives. And little by little, we're seeing how God transforms our life into the state of order. Right, Miriam? Sadly, today, so many people are caught in the chaos of the day. And how many of us walk through life with deep-seated anxieties that eventually result in physical illness or addictions that stem from our past. And these are from thoughts that create this tohu vavohu within us, confusion and emptiness within our being. They have a beginning, but they also can have an end. And that's the secret of what the Torah brings us. And I know about that feeling of emptiness. I walked around it most of my young life. But I was talking with Miriam about it, about that beautiful verse in Ecclesiastes where it says that he placed eternity in our hearts in Ecclesiastes 3:11, so that it's like that place within us that has that remembrance of paradise. And that's what we're looking to fill. That's what that emptiness is all about. And we fill it with all kinds of things. Bereshit also spoke about time entering the equation, spoke about the Moedim, the signs, the days, the years that God created. And but I would love you to go back and listen to my message from last week so that you don't miss anything from Bereshit. But today I'd like to get into the book of Noah, because this continues the message from last week. And I'm going to share the screen with us so that we can go to.
Are you in Sephardic?
Yes, I'm in Sepharia. So I'll go back just a few verses. Can you see it on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now here, we can see that it says that there were Nephilim on the earth. Nephilim were powerful, strong people. And it says when divine beings cohabited with human women who bore offspring, these were heroes of old, men of renown. There were probably, some say that they were fallen angels. I don't know. I think they were just very powerful people. But God saw how great human wickedness was upon the earth, and how every plan devised by the human mind was nothing but evil all the time. I mean, we see that today. These are cycles. The Torah teaches us about the cycles of humanity. And that's why it's so important for us to go back to the beginning, because we see these cycles again throughout our history. I saw it, the last cycle was recently, October the 7th was a cycle. The Holocaust was a cycle of evil. The pogroms that chased my great-grandparents to Canada from Kiev in 1906 was a cycle. And we're in one right now, but it didn't begin yesterday. It began here at the very beginning. And it says, God regretted having made man on earth. With a sorrowful heart, he said, I will blot out from the earth mankind whom I created, humans together with beasts, creeping things, and birds, for I regret having made them. Imagine. But then it says, Noah found favor with God. And now we begin the book of Noah. This is the line of Noah. He was Ish Tzaddik, a righteous man, a just man. And we'll see throughout the Torah that there are certain men who are singled out as just and righteous men. And we pray that by learning the Torah, we can be just and righteous as these men were. It says he was blameless in his age. In other words, in the times that he was living, which were so evil, he was blameless. No one is perfect. God said he didn't make man perfect, but he was just, righteous. And I love this saying, Noah walked with God. Later, we'll see how Enoch walked with God. And I can say, hopefully, that I am walking with God, that Miriam, you are walking with God. Hopefully, Baruch, in that community where you're living in now, you're walking with God. Jerry, that you are walking with God. And it says Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Later, we're going to read that Ham was the middle son. No, Ham was the youngest. Japheth was the middle, and Shem, sorry, I'm making a mistake. Shem was not the first son. He was the chosen one. He was the middle, Ham was the youngest, and Japheth was the eldest. So he really should have been given everything, but it was Shem would be the chosen one. And here it says the earth became corrupt before God, and it was filled with, look at this word in Hebrew, Hamas. It was filled with violence, filled with lawlessness. But here it's violence. And we see that. We don't want this earth to be filled with Hamas. That's why we're praying that God would right now allow the Israeli army, the IDF, to destroy Hamas. But it's impossible to destroy violence until we as a people are faithful to God, until we turn back to him. When God saw how corrupt the earth was, For all flesh had corrupted its ways on earth. God said to Noah, I've decided to put an end to all flesh, for the earth is filled with lawlessness, with evil, with violence. Here, kol mala, filled, haaretz, the earth, Hamas, the earth is filled with violence. And because of them, I am about to destroy them with the earth. We see signs of that today. The storms, the floods, the fires, the whole earth is filled with these. It's becoming chaotic again. How we see things are chaotic because of the earth being filled or starting to be filled again with this Hamas. So God told Noah to make himself a teva, an ark of gopher wood, gopher. The only two places we see this ark, teva, is here with Noah, and later on, much later, the same word is used when Moses will be put in a little mini ark, be put into the waters to be saved. I love these pictures that the Torah gives us. Remember, it's a book of pictures. Make an ark with compartments, covered it inside and out with tar so that it'll be able to float. And this is how you shall make it. The length of the ark, 300 cubits. Okay, we don't have to go into the details. God is telling him what to do. There are going to be 3 decks because there's going to be a lot of animals in them. And it says, for my part, I am about to bring Hamabul, the flood, waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh under the skies, the Hashemayim, in which there is breath of life. So everything has breath of life. The animals, the birds, and humankind. Everything on earth shall perish. Obviously not the fish, because they can swim. But I will establish my covenant with you. He's speaking to Noah. And you shall enter the ark with your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives. Here the word is not wives, as we learn later on. It's isha, anashe. From ish, man, he made woman, isha. And all that lives of all flesh, you shall take 2 of each into the ark to keep alive with you. They shall be male and female. That is God's pattern. And anyone who decides to go out of this pattern and say, like they do now, that there's many genders, gender fluidity, they create chaos. They are going against God. You can be upset at me for saying it, but this is what God said. Don't kill the messenger. This is what God said. From birds of every kind, cattle of every kind of creeping thing on earth, 2 of each shall come to you to stay alive. For your part, take of everything that is eaten and store it away. So obviously Noah knew, because he had named all the animals. No, Adam had named all the animals, sorry. But Noah knew what they all had to eat, because these things are passed down from Adam to Noah. Take from everything that is eaten and store it away to serve as food for you and for them. He had to figure out what they all ate, and I'm sure they weren't going to eat each other. So these were grains that they were going to eat, that Noah had to store. So Noah did, just as God commanded him, he did. Remember, if there's anything that comes to mind, Miriam or Jerry or Brian, as I'm reading this, don't be afraid to interrupt.
The lions had to eat grass.
That's right. Everything, they probably ate hay.
I think, the eating of, I think, what, Brian?
No,
Sorry.
hold on, Brian. Only one can speak at a time. Let Marion speak.
Well, Brian, did you finish?
I
Okay.
finished.
Okay. No, I'm just saying that I think the eating of meat came later, after the flood.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree with you. Then God, Yud He Vav He, the creator, the eternal, the master of the universe, said to Noah, people don't realize that they were able to hear from God. We don't hear his voice like that anymore. Maybe some people do, but he does have a way of speaking to us. Just as he spoke to Noah, just as he spoke to Adam, he can speak to us. We just
I
have
think
to.
that's why what you were just saying, the Ecclesiastes verse, where God has put eternity in our hearts, is so powerful, because even if we don't have the same kind of as open, direct conversation with God, or however we imagine it happened in the garden, God is there, whether we feel it all the time or not. You know, this greater, incredible consciousness, whatever you want to call God, is there.
Exactly. And he has a way of speaking to us. Some hear him very clearly. I see him in so many things in my life. When we're attuned to him, when we're obedient to him, and we want to hear from him, let me tell you, he wants to be able to speak to us. I know people who say, he's out there, he doesn't pay attention to us anymore, we're on our own. That absolutely is not the truth. So he told Noah, go into the ark with all your household. For you alone have I found righteous before me in this generation. And when I read that, I prayed. I said, God, let me be found righteous before you in this generation, because let me tell you, the generation that we're living in now is a terrible, has terrible morals, terrible principles. But there are those who do desire to speak to God, who desire to hear from him and to be obedient and understand what it is to have a relationship with him. And here it says, remember, he was going to take 2 of each. Now it says, of every clean animal. Tahor is clean. Tameh is not clean. And he had a purpose for that. The clean animals were those who he chose to be able to bring to him as an offering of thanksgiving. Later on, we're going to read of the different offerings, but here he would take 7 pair, again, males and their mates, the females. Every animal that is not pure, only 2, a male and its female counterpart. Okay, so the 2 are those that are not tahor. These would be tameh. Of the birds of the sky, 7 pairs, male and female, to keep seed alive upon all the earth. For in 7 days I will make it rain upon the earth, 40 days and 40 nights, and I will blot out from the earth all existence that I have created. Imagine the entire earth. Look how we feel now when we see these floods. I know when I watch these floods in North Carolina, and to see everything disappearing. There's floods everywhere around the world now. I'm seeing them in Italy. I've seen them in Spain. I've seen them in South America. I mean, really, there are tremendous floods going on around the world, and people are like astounded by them. And imagine the entire earth would be flooded. It's funny. I read that Rashi said that every place except Jerusalem was flooded. I don't know. Anyway, Noah did just as God commanded him. Now, he was 600 years old when the flood came, and waters were poured upon the earth. Remember, it had never rain before. It said in Genesis that the waters would flow up from the earth. So it was like dew, or some places there would be like geysers, I would suppose, like we see in the States. Noah, with his sons, his wife, and his sons' wives, or his women, went into the ark because of the waters of the flood. Of the pure animals, of the animals that are not pure, of the birds and everything that creeps on the ground, 2 of each, male and female, came to Noah into the ark as God had commanded Noah. On the 7th day, the waters of the flood came upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, on the 17th day of the month, on that day, all the fountains of the great deep burst open, and the floodgates of the sky broke open. Now, it's interesting because it says here in the 600th year of Noah's life. We're going to see later that Abram, we're going to read a little soon about Abram. He was 58 years old when Noah died. I don't know if we realize that, but we're going to see that later on. The rain fell on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. This 40 days and 40 nights is another cycle we'll see repeated. Moses was up on the Mount Sinai for 40 days and 40 nights. Yeshua was in the desert, tempted 40 days and 40 nights. We were 40 years in the desert. That's where we get that whole idea of 40 being a generation. That same day, Noah and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, went into the ark with their women. They and all the beasts of every kind, the cattle of every kind, the creatures of every kind, all the birds, every winged thing, came to Noah in the ark, to each of all flesh in which there was breath of life, ruach hachayim, ruach chaim, breath of life. So they entered. Those that entered were comprised of, again, male and female of all flesh, as God commanded him. And God shut him in. He stood in front of that door so that the waters of the deep would not enter into that ark. It reminded me of the idea of how God stood before the door so that the angel of death could not enter into the home in Egypt where the blood was placed on the door so that the firstborn would be saved. These pictures are always repeating themselves in the Torah. The flood continued 40 days on the earth. The waters increased and raised the ark so it rose above the earth. The waters swelled and increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark drifted upon the waters. Can you imagine being inside the ark? I know sometimes I'm in the house when there's this huge storm, thunder and lightning, and I'm so grateful to be saved inside my house. Can you imagine knowing that? I'm sure they heard the screams of the people being drowned. It must have been a nightmare. When the waters had swelled much more upon the earth, all the highest mountains everywhere were covered. 15 cubits higher did the waters swell as the mountains were covered. So however 15 cubits were, it was higher than the highest mountain. All flesh that stirred on earth perished. Birds, cattle, beasts, everything that swarmed upon the earth, and all humankind, all in whose nostrils was the merest breath of life, all that was on dry land, they died. All existence on earth was blotted out. Humans, cattle, creeping things, the birds. Look how often God repeats it so that we get it. We have that understanding that God was so upset with us that he blotted out everything that walked on earth. only Noah was left, and those with him in the ark. And when the waters had swelled on earth, 150 days later, half a year, less than half a year, God remembered Noah. It's not that he forgot him, but this was a way of showing that, okay, now God was going to start to do something new. And all the beasts and all the cattle that were with him in the ark, God caused a wind to blow across the earth, and the waters subsided. When I read that, I remembered another wind. Can you think of what I'm thinking about? Anybody?
In the way, what's his name? Oh, Nineveh? No, when he was in the mouth of the whale, or you? No.
There was a wind that blew in the waters, and the waters subsided. The waters parted. Remember with
Oh
Moses?
yeah, of course, the Red Sea.
Exactly. Actually, it's the Yam Suf, the Sea of Reeds.
Right.
Yeah. God caused a wind to blow all night that parted the Sea of Reeds. God repeats himself over and over. He doesn't do new things for us because he's already created everything. He uses them in various situations. And the fountains of the deep and the floodgates of the sky were stopped up, and the rain from the sky was held back. The waters receded steadily from the earth. At the end of 150 days, the waters diminished. So that in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. They say that's in Armenia and part of Turkey, in that area. The waters went on diminishing until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the 1st of the month, the tops of the mountain became visible. Aren't we in the 10th month of Tishrei? Isn't Tishrei the 10th month? Isn't that when we celebrate the
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was trying to think.
Yeah, I think so. And at the end of 40 days, Noah opened the window of the ark that he had made and sent out a raven. It went to and fro until the waters had dried up from the earth. Then he sent out the dove to see whether the waters had decreased from the surface of the earth, of the ground. But the dove could not find a resting place for its foot. So it returned because the dove wanted a place to build its nest, couldn't find a place yet. So returned to the ark. And for there the water was over all the earth. So putting out his hand, he took it into the ark with him. He waited another 7 days and again sent out the dove from the ark. The dove came back to him toward evening, and there in its bill was a plucked off olive leaf. So imagine if there was enough time. Well, I'm wondering, maybe the leaves remained on the trees because it would have taken time for leaves to grow again. So the leaves were immersed 40 days in the water. The trees were immersed 40 days in the water, but the leaves were still there when the water came down because there was an olive leaf on the tree. Then Noah knew that the waters had decreased on the earth. But he waited another 7 days and sent the dove out again. This time it didn't return to him again. In the 601st year, in the first month, the month of Nisan, when we celebrate Pesach, on the first of the month, this was the beginning, like Pesach is the beginning. That's our new year. This is a new year for the earth. The waters began to dry from the earth. And when Noah removed the covering of the ark, he saw that the surface of the ground was drying. In the 2nd month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth was dry. And God spoke to Noah, saying, Come out of the ark together with your wives, your sons, and your sons' wives. Bring out with you every living thing of all flesh that is with you, birds, animals, and everything that creeps on the earth, and let them swarm on the earth and be fertile and increase on the earth. Imagine they were there with snakes, with spiders, with mosquitoes, everything that was there was on this ark. So Noah came out together with his sons, his wives, his sons' wives, every animal, everything that creeps, caterpillars, everything, every bird, from the eagles to the tiniest hummingbird, everything that stirred on earth came out of the ark by families. To me, this is absolutely miraculous because Noah couldn't have called them. That's how your book came about, to Miriam.
Exactly, right? God had to call them.
God called every living thing that had to come into the earth. But remember, only 7 of each and 2 of each. The rest died. The rest of the animals, they died as well. Then Noah built an altar, Mizbech, to Yud-He Vav-He, and taking of every pure animal, every animal that God said that we were able to bring to him, that he would accept for whatever reasons, we don't know. This is a chok. And of every pure bird, he offered burnt offerings on the altar. These were completely burnt up. They were the olah. And God smelled here it says, reach nechoyach. It was a pleasing smell. It's interesting that reach comes from the same root as ruach. The smell, the breath, the wind, ruach, they all have that idea of air, of smell. Again, a beautiful picture. And the Lord, the Eternal One, resolved, never again will I destroy the earth because of humans, because the devisings of the human mind are evil from youth. From the time we're young, already we have the ability to choose evil, bad, ra, from the time of our youth. As we get older, we become wiser. But young, the youth, they are the easiest ones. That's why you'll see dictators will always choose the youth to what's the word? To teach them the ways of a dictatorship. They're the ones that can be molded and shaped. And the Hitler youth, the youth of any religion, they are I can't think of the word. They're very flexible. They're like open sponges. But as we get older, we're not so easy. It's not so easy for us to accept all these things. Nor will I ever again destroy every living being as I have done. So here we see that no more will earth be destroyed completely.
By water, that is.
It doesn't say by water.
It says
No, it doesn't say here.
It didn't say before, I will never send water.
It says, never again will I destroy the earth because of mankind, since the devisings of human mind are bad from their young. Never again will I destroy every living being as I have
later
done.
On it says by fire.
Later on, yeah, but it won't be the entire world.
Okay.
Yeah. And it says here, so long as the earth endures, whether it's seed time and harvest, whether through cold and heat, summer and winter, day or night, the earth shall not cease. Never again will it be destroyed. God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, be fertile and increase and fill the earth. That's what God wants humanity to do. That's why he made male and female. So when today, we see a trend where we're no longer fertile. We're no longer increasing. We're choosing to raise dogs and cats instead of having children. The only ones who are raising animals and raising children or having many children are those who are reading the Bible, even in its distorted versions. Religious Jews, religious Muslims, religious Christians. They all come from the same root, the Torah, and they are the only ones who are being fertile and multiplying. The fear and the dread of you shall be upon all the beasts of the earth and all the birds of the sky, everything with which the earth is astir, and upon all the fish of the sea, they are given into your hand. Just as he did with Adam, he's doing with mankind. We needed to have dominion upon the earth and take care of all the beasts of the field, everything, the birds, the fish, everything. And we are destroying them. Right now, we are raping the planet. Humankind is raping the earth, and it's no wonder that so many women are being raped. Midat keneged midat, measure for measure. It's a horrible picture of what's happening. We call Mother Earth, the female, and Mother Earth is being raped. And we see women being raped. It's very sad. God, that's chaos. Every creature that lives shall be your, look at this. Every creature that lives shall be yours to eat, as with the green grasses. I give you all of these. So we can eat anything. Offerings are different. I mean, today, I'd choose not to eat a snake. Maybe because, I don't know why. But I guess, we've been taught what we can eat and what we can't eat. I don't want to eat a beetle. I don't want to eat some of these things.
An aardvark.
An aardvark. And yet, here it says, God said, every creature that lives shall be yours to eat. Why? How?
I think that's whatever it is, maybe because this is just, I'm just yakking, but I think because we've come out of we sort of gave up our innocence, so to speak, in disobedience, that the world has changed. I don't think in the garden, the great Garden of Eden, that
No, well, we're not talking about the Garden of
no,
Eden
no,
now.
I'm saying, but now we're out of there, and now
Yeah,
evil has spread all over the earth. It's just
yeah,
a different world
yeah.
right now.
But we are able, we could eat anything.
Yeah, you
It
can.
says, however, because when you deal with evil and paganism and many gods, they eat live creatures. They will kill an animal and eat the heart while it's still beating. They
And
will
also in certain rituals, they'll drink blood in certain cults.
and eat blood. And not only that, they would leave a live animal, cut off a leg, and eat it and eat it while the animal was still alive. You must not eat flesh with its lifeblood in it, period. But it can't be clearer. But for your own lifeblood, I will require a reckoning. I will require it of every beast. I will require a reckoning for human life of everyone for each other. This is not so that we do not murder each other. Even the killing of animals just for the sport is wrong in God's eyes. It's different when you're hungry. But to kill an animal just for sport, and if you're going to eat it, it's a different story. Whoever sheds human blood, by human hands shall that one blood be shed. For in the image of God was humankind made. We were made in God's image, and so we were not to shed human blood premeditatively, or any other way. By accident is a different story. That's why later on we'll see the
or in
the cities of
self-defense.
refuge, or in self-defense. Exactly. So be fertile, multiply, increase, abound on the earth, increase on it. There is enough room on this planet for everyone without greed. And God said to Noah and to his sons, I now establish my brit, my covenant with you and your offspring, and with every living thing that is with you, birds, cattle, and every wild beast, all that have come under the ark, every living thing on earth. This is his covenant. I maintain my covenant with you. Never again shall all flesh be cut off by the waters of a flood, and never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth. This is what you were talking about before, Miriam.
Yeah, that's what yeah, right.
God further said, this is the sign. God gives us, remember in Genesis, right at the beginning, he talks about the signs that he would create. And this is the first sign that I set for the covenant between me and you and every living creature with you for all things, all ages to come. I have set my bow in the clouds. Every time we see a rainbow, it's such an awesome experience. It shall serve as a sign of the covenant between me and the entire earth. Every time we see a rainbow, we know that God made this promise. We know he's real. When I bring clouds over the earth and the bow, the rainbow, appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant between me and you and every living creature among all flesh, so that the waters shall never again become a flood to destroy all flesh. We see a lot of floods now, a lot of flooding around the world, but never again will the whole earth be flooded. But it's a sign that something is nicht git, that's not good on the earth.
The Maasai drink the blood from the chest of the cows.
Right, right.
They stab them in the chest, and they catch the blood in a cup, and they drink the blood.
Yeah,
The cow.
and that is comes from paganism. Our God does not want us to do that. When the rainbow is in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and all living creatures, all flesh that is on the earth. That God said to Noah shall be the sign of the brit that I have established between me and all flesh on earth. The sons of Noah who came out of the ark, can you imagine how they felt when they came out of the ark after being there for a year? More than a year. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham being the father of Canaan. That's our first enemy. And why? Canaan was cursed from something we'll see. The three were the sons of Noah. And from these, the whole world came from them. So every living creature, every living being, every human being on earth is our relative. I'm related to everyone I see, and we need to treat them as family. And hopefully they will learn to treat us that way. Noah, who was the tiller of the soil, or man of the soil, he first planted a vineyard. He didn't plant a cornfield. He planted a vineyard. He cared more about getting drunk than eating. He drank of the wine and became drunk, and he uncovered himself within his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father's nakedness and told his two brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a cloth and they placed it both against both their backs, and they walked in backwards. They covered their father's nakedness. Their faces were turned away so that they did not see their father's nakedness. They honored their father. Ham did not. Whatever he did, whatever the concoctions of the rabbis or any other people who said what Ham did, we don't know. Doesn't say. How he saw what he did, we don't know. We'll be able to ask him maybe when we see him. But they covered him. And when Noah woke up from his wine, when he woke up out of his drunken stupor, and he learned what his youngest son had done to him, so maybe he did something. He said, "Cursed be Canaan." He didn't curse.
Ham. He didn't curse Ham.
He didn't curse Ham.
A lot of
because-
people in South Africa, for example, during like before apartheid and all that, not only the South Africa and other places, they say, the black people are cursed because of Ham, but they got it all wrong. It wasn't from Ham, it was from Canaan.
Exactly. Canaan was cursed.
Yeah.
And later on, we'll see where Canaan was from, because it turns out that he's that whole area of where Israel is today, that was Canaan. Cursed be Canaan. And one of the reasons that God would take that land away from them. The lowest of slaves shall he be to his brothers. And he said, "Blessed be the Lord God, the eternal, the God of Shem." Shem was a chosen one. Let Canaan be a slave to the people who would come from Shem. May God enlarge Japheth. Now, Japheth, it says, became, let me see where I think it says they became the European countries. They say that they became the Christian church when you follow the descendants of Japheth.
Yeah, I heard also it was the European nations.
Yes, and let them dwell in the tents of Shem. Let Canaan be a slave to them. Now, I was looking up who it will repeat, I think we'll see in this portion, but the descendants of Canaan were all those who Israel had to fight against: the Sidon, the Hittites from Het, the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Girgashites, the Hivites. All these people came from Canaan. Noah lived after the flood 350 years. All the days of Noah came to 950 years, and then he died. These are the lines, the descendants of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the sons of Noah, who were born to him after the flood. So we already see Japheth. Gomer, they say, I've heard said that it was Germany, but Josephus said that this was Galatia, the Galatian, Turkey, came from Japheth. Magog were Russia and China. Madai were the northwest of Iran, Azerbaijan, Kurdistan. That was that area. Javan is Greece. Tubal is Turkey. Meshech is also Turkey, northern, going into Russia. Tiras is ancient Persia, part of Turkey, also Ethiopia. Here you see the descendants of Gomer, Ashkenaz. That's where the Ashkenaz Jews, those who lived in that part of Germany. Rifat, Togarma, again, Turkey. They would supply the army that would go, called the army of Gog and Magog.
So even though we're descended from Shem, we have some blood of Gomer in us.
Yeah,
no?
they're all related. All these people are related. It's like Jacob and Esau. Jacob was chosen. Esau became an anti-God. So some were people who follow God, some don't. That's the only way we can divide people up today. Those who God chooses and those who he doesn't. The descendants of Javan were Elisha and Tarshish.
Just one thing. When you say those who God chooses, I mean, it's not just he chooses us because he knows our heart. It's not like he's a strict and he just says, "I choose you, but I don't choose that one."
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yes,
no, just because it
absolutely.
could sound like another one of the other
Yes.
groups that says, God, he's only
Yes,
spoken to
absolutely.
whatever. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. You know, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's hard, you know.
Right, but it's just important to see both sides because there are so many cults that specifically say God has chosen us and he hasn't chosen anyone else.
Right. You're right. From these maritime nations branched out, these are the descendants of Japheth by their lands, each with its language, their clans, and their nations. So even though it says it here, we know later that there was only one language. So this must come afterwards. That's why our rabbi would always say the Torah is not necessarily, what's the word?
Chronological.
Chronological. Thank you, Miriam. I'm getting older. The descendants of Ham, Cush. Cush is Ethiopia. Mitzrayim, we know. What is it? Egypt. Put is the Sudan area, Eritrea, northeastern Canaan, we know already. Canaan is where Israel is. The descendants of Cush. These will all come and fight against Israel. Sheba is Yemen. Dedan is Saudi Arabia. We get that from some of the other prophets. Cush also begot Nimrod, the first mighty figure on earth. He was a mighty hunter by the grace of God. That's where we get the saying, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter by the grace of God. The mainstays of his kingdom were Babylon, which is modern day Iraq, Erech, Akkad, Kalne. All of them were in the land of Shinar. And we know that in the land of Shinar was where they built the Tower of Babel. From that land, Ashur went forth, Assyria, and they built Nineveh. Rezen, between Nineveh and Kala, that's the great city. Okay, I don't want to read all these other names because we've spoken about all these people who became the enemies of Israel. Let me go down. Look, Canaan, territory extended from Sidon. The Sidonites were our enemy. As far as Gaza, near Gaza, this is where it began all the way back then. As far as Sodom and Gomorrah, who no longer exist, Admah, Zeboim, near Lasha. These are the descendants of Ham according to their clans and their languages, by their land and their nations. Okay, let me continue all the way down here. There's one interesting part here. It says, Arpachshad begot Shelah. Shelah begot Ever. That's where Abraham comes from. The Ivrim, the Hebrews, come from here, Ever. 2 sons were born to Ever. The name of the first was Peleg, for in its days the earth was divided, and the name of his brother was Yochanan. I think at the time of Noah, from things that I've read, it was one landmass. The waters surrounded the one landmass of all the countries were all together, which is how people were able to walk from one end of the earth to the other. But after Noah, after the flood, it says here, in his day, the day of Peleg, the earth was divided. Something happened with the tectonic plates so that the earth, now you cannot walk. It's divided by oceans. So this is where this great divide happened, in my understanding. Joktan begot, okay, we'll go. I'm not going to read all these names. We can do that. You can do that on your own. These are the groupings of Noah's descendants according to their origins by their nations, and from these the nations branched out over the earth after the flood. Now we come to this because everybody spoke one language. Everyone on earth had the same language and the same words.
You know, it's interesting. I totally forgot that. Like, I mean, I sort of fuzzy, I don't know. I just totally forgot that this is so clear that here it is,
Yeah.
that we only had the same one language.
And this was the language. This was the language, the one we're reading right now. From
How do
my
you know that?
understanding,
I mean, how do we know that?
because this is the language that God wrote it in. So there was only one language. He spoke to Adam, he spoke to Noah in this language. This is my understanding. There's
Okay.
no other language that existed. But as
Okay.
they migrated from the east, they came upon a valley in the land of Shinar and settled there. They said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them." And the bricks served as stone, and bitumen is like tar, like the pitch, served them as mortar. And they said, "Let us build a city and a tower with its top in the sky." In other words, they wanted to reach up into the heavens to make a name for ourselves. They wanted their name to replace the name of the one and only God, or else we shall be scattered all over the world. They didn't want, God told them to go all over the world and to multiply. And here they're saying, no, we want to make our own name and we don't want to be scattered. We want to be, as the snake, the serpent told Eve, to be like the gods, like divine beings. Are always, from the beginning, humans have always tried to usurp the name of God, make a name for ourselves. And we don't want to be scattered over the earth the way God said. We want to stay here. We want to build a ziggurat, and we are going to then be able to rule everything. The Lord took a look. He came down to look at the city and the tower that mankind had built. And he said, if as one people with one language for everyone, this is how they begin to act, then nothing that they may propose to do will be out of their reach. Look at the power God gave us. We could do everything but create. We can't create it of nothing. Only God can, but we can take his creation. Look what we're doing today. Look what we've been able to do. We've been able to go to the moon. We've been able to create artificial intelligence. We can, there's so many things that when we put our minds to do it, we can do it. But does it serve mankind? Is it good for us? So let us go down and confound their speech, so that they shall not understand each other. Then the Lord scattered them from there over the face of the whole earth, as he said he was going to do originally, as he wanted us to do. He forced us to be scattered over the face of the earth, and they stopped building the city. That's why it was called Bavel, because there God confounded the speech of the whole earth. Bubble, bubble, bubble. They couldn't understand each other. And from there, God scattered them over the face of the whole earth. This is the line of Shem. Shem was 100 years old when he had Arpachshad, 2 years after the flood. After the birth of Arpachshad, Shem lived 500 years and had sons and daughters. He had Shelah, and then it continues to go down, and we see all the people who were at the very end here. It'll say, this you can go ahead and read on your own. Nahor was the brother of Abram. Nahor, not the brother. Nahor lived 29 years. He begot Terah. After the birth of Terah, Nahor lived 119 years, had sons and daughters. Terah had lived 70 years, and he and his wife gave birth to Abram and his brother Nahor, and Haran, who was the father of Lot. This is the line of Terah. Terah begot Abram, and Abram was still alive. I mean, Noah was still alive when Abram was born. I wonder if they saw each other, if they were close, if they lived in the same vicinity. Who knows? Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran begot Lot. This is how we see Lot is Abram's nephew. Haran died in the lifetime of his father Terah in his native land, Ur of the Chaldees. Abram and Nahor took wives for themselves. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and Nahor's wife was Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah and Iscah. Sarah was barren. She had no child. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, the son of Haran. So Terah, listen to this. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, the son of Haran, his daughter-in-law Sarai, the wife of his son Abram, and they left Ur of the Chaldees to go toward the land of Canaan. But when they came as far as Haran, they settled there. The days of Terah came to 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. So Abram would have been in Haran, where his brother lived, where his father lived. That's where he left. He didn't leave alone out of Ur. He left Haran. There's so many things that we take for granted because we hear it from others. We always have to go back and check, because as I read these things, you know, I'll go and I like this version here, because what I can do is I can click on it here, and then, as you can see, are the commentaries. And I can read commentaries of many rabbis. And some of these commentaries, honestly, they have an amazing imagination. But our people are caught in the commentaries. And we don't go back to see what did the Torah actually say. So we end up believing stories. Some things are mishigas. Miriam, can you turn your camera on so I can see you as we come to the
No, I'm
close?
just getting ready to do that.
Okay, I'm just reminding you. There we go.
Last on the draw.
Hello, Jerry. Nice to see you. How
Hi,
you been
Jerry.
doing? You need to unmute.
Yes. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. So at the beginning, I did what you had recommended, and that I was planning to do was to do a recap of Bereshit. But for those of you who are listening, and Jerry, I hope you also were able to go and listen to the message that I gave last week on Bereshit, because if I have to say so myself, it was a very good message. And
Oh, so you gave a message even though that we didn't have a meeting.
no, on Shabbat.
Oh, on Shabbat, yeah,
On Shabbat about Bereshit.
It was a great message, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't do it last Wednesday night because last Wednesday night we were still in Sukkot. So we missed, although I really could have done it because it was, I think Wednesday night, let me just quickly look. Wednesday night was, hang on a second. No, it was Shmini Atzeret. And Shmini Atzeret is a holiday. We had the first day of Sukkot is a holiday. And the 8th day of Sukkot, Shmini Atzeret, which is an added day. What our rabbis have done is added another extra day called Simchat Torah, which is not in the Torah. That's the day 1 year ago, this past Simchat Torah, was when Hamas attacked the kibbutzim in the south of Israel and created absolute havoc. Many of our hostages are still there in Gaza, And they will not stop until our hostages are freed, dead or alive. And we're praying for that. But for me, there's something very interesting. Let me see if I can, we tend to define ourselves, and I do too, by every bad thing that's happened to us. Now, as a people, we're defining ourselves about, I'm not so sure, but defining ourselves. But the last horror was October the 7th. And before that, it was the Holocaust. And before that, it was the pogroms that drove my grandparents out of Kiev to Canada. And every cycle in history has a root cause and a consequence. So I prefer not to define us as a people by these horrors, but by something so much deeper and by something which we can control, and that's being obedient to God's Torah. There's one event that we'll read later on in the Torah, and it was when King Saul told Nathan, no, King Saul was told by Nathan, wipe out the Amalekites, men, women, children, cattle. King Saul refused. Today he would be called maybe a leftist. He was more humane than God. He was offended that God would ask him to do such a thing. And he believed he was acting more humanely than God. He was more religious than Nathan. 500 years later, a man arose named Haman, who was born of the survivors that Saul was supposed to destroy. Our history repeats itself. And we're in one of those cycles right now. And the only answer, everybody seems to have an answer.
Arafat called himself an Amalekite.
Arafat said he was an Amalekite. The answer that we have for peace to be on earth and all goodwill toward men is not by becoming religious, but by turning back to the Torah, the written Torah for all humanity. There is no other answer. And we have to read it. That's why we read it every week. We have to read what he says, and not only read it, but learn how to apply it to our lives. Because if we apply these things, we get out of the chaos, the tohu vavohu, and we live a life of order, a life of, I mentioned in my message on Shabbat, I remember when I was 16 years old and I had horrible pain in my stomach. And I walked around like that for years. And it was a sense in my gut, and I couldn't find the answer. When I read this in Ecclesiastes, that he put a little bit of paradise within each of us, and we're looking to fill it. Some will fill it with all kinds of addictions, drugs, alcohol, OCD, anxieties, fear, whatever. We're going to look to fill that emptiness within us, the tohu vavohu within each human being. We're going to look to fill it with something. But when we fill it with God and his Torah, the day I accepted God into my life and I opened the Bible and I allowed him to lead my life, it was like a miracle. That emptiness left me and it never returned. Doesn't mean that I never struggle, because every day is a struggle. We struggle between choosing right and wrong, making good decisions and bad ones. That's something that will never change. Right to the time we're born, till the time we die, I mean. Yeah, we're born again and when we go to heaven. But when we choose to live his Torah, that's when we're free. We become freer and freer and freer. It's like a cycle, that spiral that lifts us out of the oblivion of chaos into the joy of his order. And that's why we need to read. No?
I love the book of Bereshit.
Me
It's
too.
so primal, like it's almost like it speaks about all things, the coming into being of everything, whether you take it totally literally or partly literally or metaphorically, it's still so primal, it's so basic. It's about this planet, these people, it's everything. It's like it's you couldn't invent anything more primal than that.
Right.
What happens to every being and every creature and every it establishes the whole. It's like the narrative for the whole earth.
Right.
I love it.
The sheep is the word for when you go caca.
What is?
In Bereshit, in the written English, is the word for going for caca.
No, Brian.
Yeah.
It's not. No. Sorry,
It's
Brian. Your mind is in the toilet. It's not that at all. Thank you very much for that insight. I tend to disagree because it's Hebrew and you're talking about English. But the most beautiful thing for us to do, I started doing that. Sometimes I'll reach for a book to read, and then I say, you know what? Let me go read the prophets. The prophets of in the Tanakh are not like modern day prophets. Let me just read you something because, sometimes we forget. Let me share the screen for 1 second because I just want to show you something. Let me go to here. One of my favorite prophets is Isaiah. Let's go to the first chapter of Isaiah. The prophecy of Isaiah, son of Amos. Okay, so he's prophesied in Judah and Jerusalem. That's when he lived at the time of Hezekiah. Here he says, "Hear, O heavens, give ear, O earth." In other words, they're his witnesses. Everybody, all the angels in heaven and all those who hear on earth. God has spoken. I raised children. I brought them up. They have rebelled against me. Even an ox knows its owner. Even a donkey knows its master's crib. But Israel does not know. My people are not thinking. O sinful nation, people laden with iniquity, brood of evildoers, depraved children, they have forsaken God. That's all I want to read. We have forsaken God. Now, that is not anti-Semitic. I'm not reading that because I'm saying God hates us. He's telling us, I've created you, I chose you, I gave you everything that you need to live well so that no enemies can touch you, so that no diseases that I put on Egypt will come on you. We're going to read that in the books of the Torah. We're struggling and we're always looking. Why are we struggling? This is why, because we have forgotten our God, period. How many want to hear about God these days? Very few. So as we read through, if you are struggling in your life, if you have anxiety, if you have fear, if you have whatever it is that you're struggling through, the only answers lie not in the newspapers or magazines or television or the CNN or NBC or Fox News, or the answers are not lying with who's going to be the president of the United States, although that's starting to make me very nervous. But really, God's in control. Whoever is going to be the next president or the next leader of Canada, we have leaders in the world now. This new BRICS, this not new, the leaders of the world, they're starting to come together, like in the preparing for the war of Gog and Magog, the last war. Whether we'll see it, I don't know. I have a feeling not.
I hope not.
Because of what it says in Ezekiel. Ezekiel in chapter 38, 37 and 38 says Israel needs to be living in peace. And they'll be very prosperous. Complete peace. They will take down their walls and their bars and their gates because they'll trust somebody outside them to take care of them. And that's when the nations that we see already the beginnings of it now. But I think that we're not at the last cycle. My opinion, Rabbi's opinion.
I hope you're right.
I hope I'm right too. But I believe, I think I am. So I'm not really worried. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens in these next coming days. But in the meantime, we continue to read. We continue to live the Torah. And if we're not living the Torah, then we have to ask ourselves, why not? Because God has chosen to reveal this to us. Jerry, would you like to do the Aaronic benediction?
Yeah, I'd just like a comment.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I will do that after my comment, with your permission.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, yes, sir. Wow. So you mentioned the cycles. It reminds me of the song, and we're supposed to read the Torah Basimcha, the windmills of your mind. I'm not sure if you know that. And this Barbara Streisand.
Round like a circle in a spiral, like a wheel within a wheel, never ending or beginning on a never spinning reel, like a snowball down a mountain, like a carnival balloon, like a carousel that's turning, running rings around the moon, like a clock whose hands are beating past the minutes of its phase, and the world is like a da-da, whirling silently in space. I don't remember all the words. It's a beautiful song.
I'm so glad I brought that up. It's a nice way to come towards the ending, to hear a beautiful voice from a beautiful person.
Thank you.
And number 2 is sometimes I think it's nice that you refer to Ecclesiastes. I'm not sure if you would do something, a little treatment on that, or take 2-3 minutes, maybe take a couple of lines from Ecclesiastes when it comes to you, and maybe we should take a look at that. It's so full of wisdom.
I know.
Number 3, you're saying we have to have peace, and how do we combat the tendency of our youth to look upon evil? And that's something we have to combat that. And I'm not sure how we can do that. And because we have that tendency, and because it's mentioned that people have partial evil nature that they have to fight against, and there's a book that treats of that completely. The evil, it's called the Tanya. I'm not sure if you, and he addresses that question 100%. So I'm not sure peace it's something we really have to reach for, because our nature is not peace. And if it was peace, we would be angels, and that's not what God intended us to do.
I believe that it begins with each of us. We can't make anybody else change. We can only change ourselves. And it would be wonderful if we could do that when our children are young, and so that we could be a living example of what it is to walk with the Torah. I'm not sure. I think that we've gone too far right now on earth, and that it's going to be in God's hands. The way he sent a flood at the time of Noah, and the way he sent the plagues at the time of Egypt, something is coming, and we all know it. So we're just hopefully I hope I'm not around, but we never know.
And you reminded me something with the plagues of Egypt, and the refusals of people to give in.
Right.
The refusals of people to give in. And so because people are refusing to give in, we're having these ongoing plagues and punishments.
Totally. You're absolutely right. And even the people, because if you look at us, even those of us who experienced the slavery of Egypt, we were set free. We saw his miracles. We crossed the Sea of Reeds. We went to Mount Sinai. Everything was provided for us for 40 years in the desert. The sandals of our feet never wore off. We heard God's voice. We saw his miracles one after another, and we were still disobedient. We fought against God right from the beginning, right to the ending. Moses died. People were still fighting with Joshua, still were not willing to listen. We are a very stiff-necked people, and we are the example. We are the only ones that ever happened. What other nation ever had those kind of miracles? There are none. Why is the focus of the whole world on one nation, Israel, when we're the smallest amount of people? Because we were chosen. We have a calling, and each of us has a calling. And most of us refuse to step into our calling. Many of us sit on the fence. Many of us don't want to hear. I don't want to be responsible. I don't want to have to do this. We all have the areas inside us where we say, no, I don't want to go there. So
if one contemplates on some of the things you're saying, it's very deep and insightful, depending how deep we want to go.
Exactly. Depending how deep we want to go. Some of us have a very strong calling on this in this world. And we have to keep going even when we get discouraged, even when we want to quit. You just keep going, no matter what. Jerry, last time you read the Aaronic benediction, I really loved how you did it, because you did it in Hebrew and in English. You didn't sing it, but you read it. And it was very powerful. If you could do the same thing, it would be great.
Yeah, you like those lines. Just a moment.
I do. I do like those lines, because lines are not just to be read or sung in a language we don't understand, but that we can live it.
So I'm not sure who wrote, but for each word, there's a comment on each word, and I'll read that. And if it won't be long for the future, you'll decide. So anyhow, so we'll start, and may God bless all. And Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu bidushaso el sha'aron v'tivonu levarech es amo Yisrael v'yahavo.
Amen.
And then translate is, blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with the holiness of Aaron and commanded us to bless thy people Israel with peace. Yevarechecho, may the Lord who made heaven and earth bless you from Zion. Adonai, Lord our God, how glorious is thy name over all the world. V'yishmerecho, protect me, O God, for I place my trust in thee. Ya'er, may God be gracious to us and bless us and countenance us. Adonai, it is the Lord, a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger, rich in kindness and faithfulness. Panav, turn to me and be gracious to me, for I am lonely and afflicted. Elecho, towards thee I direct my desire. Vichoneko, as the eyes of servants look to the hand of their master, and as a maid's eyes to the hand of her mistress, so our eyes look to our God till he take pity on us. So he will receive a blessing from the Lord and justice from God his deliverer. You shall find favor and goodwill with God and man alike. Adonai, O Lord, be gracious to us. We have waited for thee. Be thou thy strength every morning, our salvation in time of distress. Pano, hide not thy face from me in my day of trouble. Incline thy ear to me. Answer me speedily when I call. Elecho, to thee I raise my eyes, O thou who art enthroned in heaven. Same, so shall they put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Lecho, thine, O Lord, is the greatness, the power, the glory, the triumph, and the majesty. For all that is in heaven and on earth is thine. Thine, O Lord, is the kingdom, and thou art supreme over all. Shalom. Peace, peace to the far and the near, says the Lord. I will heal them.
Amen. That was absolutely beautiful, Jerry. I'm telling you, we need that so badly. People just today need to turn back to God. This is the only hope that mankind has for this planet. This is a beautiful planet. He will do it. But my prayer is that he will bring relief, release, set a lot of captives free, especially our hostages right now in Israel. May God do that. May he hear us. The more we call out to him, the more he will hear us.
Yes,
Oh.
may it be God's will. Yehi Ratzon.
May it be God's will. Exactly. So I want to thank you for being with me. This is the beginning of this new series. I wish we had been able to start from Bereshit, but it's okay. We'll start from Noach, and we'll continue each and every week as long as God allows. So have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Good to see you all. And we'll see you again next week with Lech Lecha.
Lech Lecha. Remember the song? Lech Lecha.
מארצך וממולדתך ומבית אביך אל הארץ אשר אני נותן לך, אשר אני יברכך. And I'll explain what that is next week. Until then, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
You're welcome. Love you. Bye.
Love you.
Bye.